You got a space gray somewhere to set. There's some spots that can limit there, and then I think there's a spot. And Ridley was just there. You can also, if you want, another thing you can always do is if you want to pull one of those chairs up to the back side of this table. Sometimes people do that. Sit there. Alexa, turn the media center on.
The media center is busy.
No, it's not. What is that?
That attitude.
I don't even know, right?
It's busy right now.
Alexa, turn the media center on.
It is on. It's on.
There it is. Thank you.
I'm good.
Thank you. Yes. I really don't know. She gave me serious saltiness there, and I don't know what that was about. You can slide it. It's got felt. You can just push. Yeah, there you go. If you want, like sometimes folks will plop themselves right back here because then you can bear on the table. Walls are deep enough. It's all good. I'm gonna grab me a cheese stick or something. So random.
Just toss in a packet of
Hey, that's what friends are for.
Good stuff.
Here's some mayonnaise in case you want it.
Might put it on my goldfish.
You know?
It's a scary, like.
Yo, hold on. I'll take those.
They're messy. I don't dislike them.
I'll put the mayo on.
Have you ever had a mayo and banana sandwich?
Yeah.
I'm still mixed on that.
I put turkey and ketchup on a sandwich.
Oh, no. That's not right.
I remember one time I had a sandwich with peanut butter, ketchup, sea salt, cinnamon.
You're banned from the earth.
I don't remember what.
That is crazy.
It was good. It was actually.
It was from the earth.
Is it just because of the ketchup? Yes, it was.
So I had something new when my in-laws were here weekend before last.
No.
We went out for brunch to that place called Butters that's up there by the Steak and Shake at 141 and Mathis Airport Road or whatever that is, for Brookwood, where the Brookwood Target is. Anyway, it's like a brunch joint, and they had Turkish eggs. Have you had Turkish eggs? So it's like poached eggs, but they're set atop strained yogurt. Sounds really gross, but it wasn't. It was like plain strained yogurt that had like dill in it and then crushed up walnuts, and then it had like a chili oil on top, and it came with crusty bread. It was so flipping good. Like I was shocked at how good it was. I ate way too much. Like I overate because it was so good, but it was really weird. I do like it.
Last week after this, me and my mom went to the Steak and Shake. My mom was just like, we live like an hour away, and she was just like, dude, I've got to eat or I'm going to throw up in the car. I'm just like, okay, can we eat then? So we go to the Shake Shack.
Okay.
And she's on a call with her friend or whatever. I don't know. And we're ordering like a little tablet thing. So I order like a hot dog and the drink, and she goes to order, and my mom's gluten free. So she goes to order a chicken sandwich, and then she gets confused. She's just like, where's the gluten-free bun? And I was just like, I'm trying to tell her that the chicken's breaded, so there's no point in getting a gluten-free bun.
Oh my goodness.
And then she was like, no, that's ridiculous. I'm sure they have gluten-free buns. So I was just like, they don't. She goes up to the cashier. She's just like, do you guys have gluten-free buns for your chicken sandwiches? He's just like, man, the chicken's breaded. You know that, right?
Oh my goodness.
So
That's funny. I think the most interesting thing I tried recently, I like to try stuff, like give me the weird stuff. I will try almost anything. There's some, I'm going to draw some lines, but you know, and some things I've ventured that direction and decided I don't like it. I'm not going to keep going down that path. Like sushi, I don't mind like a California roll or whatever, but when I was in New York, I had another weird egg dish. Has anybody had shakshuka?
Sure, what?
It's like a spicy marinara, and it has like peppers and stuff in it, and it's a spicy marinara, and then they poach eggs in the marinara sauce. Again, it's eggs, more poached eggs, but it's like Ethiopian and Middle Eastern, but it was really good. And again, more crusty bread. It had like feta on top. I don't know. It was interesting. It was weird.
And not even Canada. In Canada, my mom had elk tacos.
Elk tacos. Yeah, that
Elk-
sounds
elk,
Canadian.
bison, bison.
How about
Bison's delicious. Yeah. All right, so let's have a look at our most frequently missed question on our Unit 1 test. Okay, two or more different atoms combined in different proportions to form a compound. Why is it not a molecule?
Compound can be two different atoms.
A compound is specifically saying you have two different. Is a molecule always two different atoms? Yeah, it can be two of the same or it can be two different. So it depends. So you got to be sure that you know what you're dealing with there. Like, remember, oxygen's a great example. Oxygen never likes to be alone. He always goes with a buddy holding hands. He's always O2. That's a molecule of oxygen, O2. But they're not two different elements. They're not two different atoms. It's just two oxygen atoms. Very good. So we just did that. We explained why. And we just gave our answers. There we go. So compounds that contain molecular bonds can be called molecules. So water, for example. Water is a molecule because it contains molecular bonds, but it's also a compound. Compounds can be molecules, but not all molecules are compounds. And that's because a molecule can be made up of two atoms of the same kind, as when two oxygen atoms combine to bind together to make an oxygen molecule. However, all compounds are made up of two or more different types of atoms. All right. So now we're going to get started into Unit 2 proper. So this is, from now on, this is pretty much the pattern for class. All that stuff you did at the beginning of the year, all that, like, get into class, get foundational science, go in and do the assignments in your portal, that's all getting you rolling. And even that last lesson was really kind of a basic foundational lesson to get you rolling into this class. Now we're in the class, okay? So we're starting with ecology. That's going to be our second unit. So we already did our Unit 1. And by the way, everybody who turned in a test was graded. I had one problem, an issue. It's been reassigned. It was an issue with the test. But everybody else has a grade. All right, so our living planet. What's the biosphere? All right, Eunice.
It's a place where life exists.
Okay, that's a good answer. Yep. It is all the ecosystems on Earth. It's wherever you have life existing. So again, we have Greek and Latin root. Bio means life, and sphere, obviously.
Circle.
This is a circle sphere. So all life on our sphere is our biosphere. There we go. How about population? Who can define population? All right, Barrett.
A large group of species.
A large group of the same species?
Different species.
Or different species? What do we think? Same? Same? All right, so a group of individuals that belong in the same species and live in the same area. So you have a population of humans, you have a population of white-tailed deer, you have a population of a specific species of snail, for example. And that is a population, and they're all in one specific area. Now, how you define the area depends. You could give the population of the city of Suwanee, right? You could give the population of Forsyth County, state of Georgia, United States, North America, entire planet. There's lots of ways. Northern Hemisphere, yeah, you could do it that way too. There's lots of ways you can determine what your boundaries are for your same area, right? But your species has to be the same regardless. How about a community? Caitlin?
A bunch of different species living together.
Okay, there you go. So all the populations of different species that live in a particular area. Again, how you define that area is going to be flexible. But the point here is that your community is different species as opposed to your population is a single species. So we have a community of, in this house, we have a community of humans and one dog, right? And then also all the other living things that we don't see that are here, like all the microbes and whatever else. Wait till we get to nematodes and little roundworms and things. There's a great, we'll talk about it when we get there, but there's this great kind of mental exercise where if you imagine all matter on Earth disappearing except those tiny microorganisms, it would be like a shell of them everywhere because they're literally on every surface, everywhere, all the time. It's kind of cool and creepy. All right, so an ecosystem. Who can give me that one, Asher?
An area where a community or population exists.
An area where a community or population exists, he says. So all the organisms that live in a place along with their physical environment. So this is basically, you're taking your community of all your different species and you're adding in your physical environment. So our ecosystem you could define it as the house for the things that never leave the house, like all the little microbes that live in our house that we don't see. And then you could expand that ecosystem to this neighborhood. You could expand that ecosystem to North Georgia. There's lots of different ways, again, to define your space. That's going to depend. All right, how about a biome? All right, Lucas.
It's a group of ecosystems that have similar climates and organisms.
There you go. So a large community of vegetation and wildlife adapted to a specific climate, which is pretty much what you were saying there. Yes. So it has, now you're dealing with climate areas, areas that are similar. Okay. Now let's talk about biotic versus abiotic. All right. Again, if you use a Greek or Latin root, biotic, you would think would mean it has to do with what? Living things. And then abiotic would be what? Non-living things. Yeah, because remember when you put A in front of stuff, it makes it the opposite. Yeah.
Soil is both biotic and abiotic.
Yes, soil is biotic and abiotic. It has all kinds of fun things in it. It has sand in it, which is going to be abiotic. It has microorganisms. So we said biotic is living or once living factor in an ecosystem. So a skeleton is biotic, even though it is not alive anymore, right? So it's still, I actually have a doe skull right on the back deck right now that my kids found for me at church. I have found a lot of deer skeletons at church. It seems to be a place where they cross the road and they get hit a lot. So, and I found one that had washed into a stream and like the smaller bones were further down, and I went and picked them all out, got up to the bigger ones. I've got a bunch. When we start talking about different types of organisms and different systems, I'll bring them out. But I have one that's a nearly complete skeleton, and then a couple other like pieces here and there. It's really kind of cool.
Where?
They're in the attic in a box. They're pretty darn cool. Yeah.
And
then we said, so look at this picture first. You can see the biotic things here, right? You got, looks like a dead tree, but it was once alive, so that's biotic. And you got moss and really cool purple mushrooms. So we'd say pretty much everything that you can see in that field of view is going to be biotic. And then abiotic, we said, is non-living. So if we look at this picture, you really can't see anything that looks like it's living. There might be trees, but we can't tell. That could be a barren piece of land back there in the background. Yeah, you can't see the fish. So everything you can pretty much see there is going to be abiotic. The water's not alive. The air is not alive. The sunlight is not alive. The clouds are not alive. Yeah.
Would processed wood like the floor here be considered biotic?
Biotic. Came from a living thing. Yep. Even if you engineer it. So we have ecological methods. We have 3 basic methods of ecological research, and they're going to be observation, which is again using your what? Your senses, your all of your senses, right? So sight, taste, smell, hearing, touch. We're not really using our proprioception for that so much. Experimentation. All right, what do you think's going on there? I don't really know, so we could just have guesses. What do you think, Barrett?
It looks like they're experimenting on what I've been to one of those. It's in Montana. They're large areas of land where they test to see how much land crops need to thrive.
So they could be testing what population of a specific species of crop requires how much area. Jordan, what do you think?
Is it like those things where they radiate the plants to get them to do stuff? So they're trying to get it to be.
So they could be doing specific things to the plant life there to see whether or not it grows more or less. Colin, what do you think?
Using different fertilizers.
Could be using different types of fertilizer. Absolutely. Eunice.
I think they're identifying new species or something.
Could be working on new species. Yeah, they could be working on different amounts of water. There's all kinds of things they could be doing. Clearly, though, you see they have multiple patches. So there's something, and they're not all the same. So something experimental is going on there, some type of research. And then lastly, we have modeling, and we talk about modeling a lot, especially when you're dealing with either really big concepts, things you can't see with your eyes because they're too big, or really small things. Like when you draw a model of a cell, like when you draw a euglena or label it, that's a model, as opposed to like the globe is a model of something really big. So modeling, especially for things that you either can't see because they're too big or too small, or things that are complex and are easier if they're made visual, which we'll do like when we do processes, photosynthesis and stuff. And I remember I mentioned last week that we have that teacher that will use some of her videos where she has like, it's almost like a chant with hand movements that go with certain processes. That's modeling too. It's just a different way to model. So what's ecology? It is the scientific study of interactions among organisms and their environment. And then what are biomes? We said biomes are going to be ecosystems that share similar climates and organisms. So you have, we'll talk specifically about biomes, but you have like, you have the taiga, you have the rainforest, you have the deciduous forest. There's different biomes where you can expect to find similar types of plants and animals, even if they're in different parts of the world, because the climate is going to be similar, right? All right, so human economics and ecology are linked. Let me ask this. Has anybody ever read the essay I, Pencil? Have you ever read I, Pencil? I highly recommend I, Pencil. You can Google it and it'll pull up. But it basically talks about all of the different interactions that are necessary for a simple pencil to be made, a simple little wooden pencil with a rubber eraser. It talks about all the different voluntary actions among humans that have to occur, like the lumberjack. He has the job. Why does he have the job? He needs to feed his family. He needs to eat. So he works, he cuts down the tree and then somebody has to buy the tree from him. Why does that person buy the tree? Because they're going to make it into pencils. Why do they sell a pencil? Because they get money to feed their family, right? So that's a really good essay. But economics deals with, we can think of it as human houses and interactions based on money and trade. And ecology has to do with nature's houses, and it's based on energy and nutrients. So what's the word I want? Ooh, just went out of my head. Ooh, oh boy. The money, which is the word I'm looking for, but I can't find the other one, in nature is energy, right? That's what you're looking for. So it's more along that's what they take in and spend, right? So raw materials required for human economics come from nature. So economics and ecology are interdependent, and there are entire fields of study in human ecology. Those are just some examples of some books, if you ever find human ecology interesting. And there are 250 colleges that have study programs in environmental economics. And if you go to environmentalscience.org, the following programs are the ones that they say are the best. So if you want a bachelor's in human ecology or environmental economics, you can go to UC Berkeley or Colorado State. And if you want a master's degree, Duke, and Rhode Island seem to be the ones that people like the best. So there you are, if you find that interesting. And then you can get even a doctoral degree from Bren School of Environmental Science and Management, which is at UC Santa Barbara and University of Vermont.
Cousin's going to Duke.
Oh yeah? Duke's a great school. Duke's a great school.
For sports, I think.
If you like snow, go to Vermont, maybe Rhode Island. So, all right, what happened to the growth? All right, this is our first video of the year, but this is interesting. Okay, and I went and found this for you because this is a good way to kind of pull nature and economics together in a way that's very realistic. So this is a piece of lumber from 1927, and that is a piece of lumber from 2023. What is obviously different between the two? What do you see? You said
in between the line.
the distance between the lines. And what are the lines, Caitlin?
The age of the tree.
Yeah, the growth rings, right? They're growth rings of the tree. So it's interesting, but you will meet some contractors and builders, especially older guys, who will fuss and complain about new lumber being flimsy and weak and too flexible and not as reliable. You ever hear about how people say old houses have good bones? You ever heard people say that? That's what they're talking about. That is the type of wood that old houses are built with. Old houses are built with old growth wood, which looks like that. New houses are built with new growth wood, where we planted and then harvested and planted and then harvested. And it gives the wood a very different structural component. So it doesn't behave the same way. So this is a quick video, but it explains that, and it's really kind of interesting. Maybe we get a commercial, maybe we don't. We could use some volume though. Yes, these are beautiful windows. Everybody loves the windows. All
In
right.
the last video, many of you pointed out the difference in the growth rings between the new and the old growth 2x4s. Of course, this loss of density impacts the quality of the lumber and potentially the framing of new houses. But to what degree and why is the new growth losing its density? I reviewed the literature and found academic studies that quantified the change in strength over the years. Nowadays, most of the wood comes from plantation forests with vastly different rotation cycles. Douglas fir, for example, is usually harvested at around 40 years of age when grown in a suitable environment. The main reason for this is that the landowners do not want to wait an additional 20 to 30 years before realizing their profits. And secondly, most mills today are designed to handle smaller logs of at most 75 centimeters in diameter, or about 30 inches. We can see the effects of the small diameter logs by looking at a stack of 2x4s, or any other dimension for that matter. A very large portion of them are sawn from the region near the pith of the log. The problem with this is that softwood trees tend to grow much faster in the first 10 to 20 years of their life, producing wide growth rings with a high portion of low-density earlywood. After the first 20 years, the growth drops down to a somewhat constant and much slower rate, dominated by high-density latewood. For an old-growth log with, say, 100 growth rings, most of the wood would be slowly grown dense wood, resulting in high-quality lumber, with only a few boards converted from the center of the log. The new growth lumber, as discussed earlier, is of much smaller diameter, mostly dominated by juvenile, low-density wood, which explains why most of the 2x4s look the way they do today. But the more important question is, how does the growth rate affect the mechanical properties of the lumber? Before I answer that, I would like you to consider subscribing to the channel. That's the easiest and cheapest way to help me produce more content. This video alone took more than 100 hours of research plus animation work. Also, I will make all the academic papers cited in this video with all my notes available to download for free in the description of the video. A study at the University of British Columbia in 1995 took over 400 small samples from different locations from the trunks of western hemlock trees. The age of each sample could be determined based on how far away from the center of the log the sample was taken from. In other words, which growth rings it consisted of. First, the density of each sample was determined, and an average value was computed. As expected, for the first 15 years, the density kept decreasing. Once the tree started to produce more latewood, the density started to increase. At around 26 years, it reached the average density of an old-growth tree. The strength, on the other hand, did not follow the same pattern. Instead, it continuously increased for almost the entire life of the tree, and it only reached the average strength of an old-growth tree after 70 years. This confirms without doubt that on average, the new 2x4s are probably 10 to 20% weaker than the average old-growth piece of wood. Occasionally, there would be a high-quality board, but it would be much harder to find in a stack full of 2x4s sawn from 40-year-old trees. To make things worse, we have not accounted for any warping effects, which I left for another video. But, spoiler alert, they are also worse in juvenile wood. Keep in mind that there is also a natural variation between species, so this comparison by no means is exhaustive, but it paints a generic picture of the direction in which the dimensional lumber has gone. I'm not sure to what extent this affects the framing and the sturdiness of new houses. I wonder whether this was a reason why the stud spacing was reduced to 16 inches compared to the 24 inches often seen in older homes. I would love to hear from some of the more experienced people in the audience that have had exposure to both new and old-growth dimensional lumber. But just to be clear, I do not advocate for cutting of old-growth forests. I'm just simply stating some of the facts. Another interesting factor that changes the whole dynamic is the midlife boost in growth observed across many plantations. This is not a new thing. A study from 1974 from Washington University looked at an experimental forest plot of Douglas fir trees grown between 1930 and 1960 and measured the width of their growth rings. They noticed something incredibly interesting. After about 15 years, the trees in this plot experienced a massive boost in their growth rate, which lasted for about 5 years before returning to slower growth again. This period of fast growth of course impacts the quality of the wood at the expense of producing larger volumes. What do you think the cause of this boost in growth rate could be? Give your theory in the comment section. I will reveal the reason and explain this phenomenon in part 2 of this video. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. For part 3 of this...
So, I don't know. He likes his videos. Interesting point, though. Old wood versus new wood. Like, you don't want to go cutting down old growth forests. That's not good necessarily. But absolutely, those are better. That's better lumber. It's better lumber. Which is why, like, sometimes you'll see, like, there are old houses that have the original wood in them. It's 100, 150-year-old wood, and it's absolutely fine. Whereas some of the newer houses are already having issues with settling and issues with the wood not being as strong or not being as dense. So it's something to consider. And it's a great example of where ecology and economics go together, because the only reason that wood is getting cut at roughly 40 years old is because that's when the farmer gets his best turnaround, his best profit. So his investment into putting the wood in, he gets the best profit out of it at around 40 years, but the lumber isn't as good. So here we have a model, a graphic, where we're going to use these words and we're going to fill them in. And we're going to say, is it an individual, a population, a community, biome, biosphere, ecosystem? So what do we suppose our elk is all by himself, Asher?
Species.
He's a species, or he's an individual. Yep. All right, Xander, what do you suppose this little group of elks are? They would be a population. Very good. All right. And what do you suppose it is when you add the bunny to it, Claire?
A community.
A community when you add the bunny. And then what happens when you add in all of these things around it? Lucas.
Ecosystem.
There you have an ecosystem. And Eunice, what is it when you look at this whole area here on the globe?
Biome.
There we go. We got a biome. And then what is it lastly when you take in the whole earth, Jordan?
Biosphere.
Biosphere. So there you go. So there's your progression from individual to biosphere. All right, so now let's talk about producers and consumers. Alrighty, so our producers are living things that make their own food. And sunlight is usually the source of energy. We're going to find that in some cases it's not, but for the majority, sunlight is the source of energy. So a great example would be your trees, your grasses, ferns, ground cover, things like that. All the green things, right? Why are they green?
They make food.
Yeah, they make food using... Yeah, they have chloroplasts in them, which contain chlorophyll, which is a green pigment, and that's necessary in converting energy from the sun into food. And then you have your consumers. Oh, it did the thing. That's just my plug and unplug moment. I don't know why sometimes it gets like that. Okay, you have your consumers, and your consumers are going to be those that, if your producers make their own food, your consumers do what?
Eat food.
Eat food from somewhere else. So they require other living things as a food source. And other organisms are the source of their energy. Yes. Absolutely. And so are these cute little frogs. Oh, are they cute? What do they eat? What do they eat? Insects, bugs. Yeah, little things like that. Yeah, maybe each other. So I had, when I was teaching back at the school, at cottage school years ago, I had a 10-gallon aquarium. And basically it was things that children caught and brought to me. Oh, look, I have a toad. I'm like, okay, we'll keep him for a few days or whatever. They catch skinks and things and the anoles. So we had a couple of skinks in there and we had a toad in there. And one day I put another anole in there, and it was anoles are those little lizards, little green. They go from green to like gray. They can change color in the heat or whatever. We have them all over. One of the kids, he used to catch the anoles. They're very hard to catch. First off, they're very fast. We used to catch them, and then he'd clip them on his ear. They'd bite, and he'd walk with them dangling. They hold like earrings. They'll hold onto your earlobe. He was kind of a strange child. But he brought me this one, and he's like, "Can we put him in the tank for a day or two?" And I'm like, "Sure." So we put the little thing in the tank with the toad, and the toad looked at it, and the toad swallowed this small lizard in front of a classroom of middle schoolers who began shrieking and crying at it. And you could see it moving in the toad's belly. And I picked the toad up by his legs, and I'm like trying to get him to spit it out. And eventually it just stopped moving. Oh my God, they were crying. The girls were crying. The boys were screaming and laughing. It was awful. But
That's amazing. That's
so sometimes they all these other larger. I mean, it was not that big. And the toad just ate the whole, and not only did, he grabs it with his tongue, but then they do that thing. Have you seen where they go like this? With their mouth is open, they shove it in. It was so gross. Yeah.
I remember one time my friend, also named Lucas, we caught a toad in a bucket and we just kept feeding it maggots.
Oh yeah.
It was really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, they will eat. They will really eat. Well, this guy saw that little anole move and was like, "Oh, that looks like dinner for the next 2 weeks," and just it was. Oh gosh, I never grabbed a toad so fast in my life. Snatched him up by his legs. I'm like, ah! Nope. Yeah. So, what do you call an organism that can produce its own food using light, water, carbon dioxide, or other chemicals? A producer. Yep. And what particular type of producer? What's another word? Autotroph. Okay, so we got a couple different words here. But yes, autotroph is what we're looking for. So in this case, if it's using lights to produce its energy, its food, like the plants, we're going to call it a photoautotroph. Okay, troph is going to be energy. That's going to be our word part for energy. And auto means on your own, yourself, right? Like autobiography, you write about yourself. Photo means light. So phototroph or autotroph. So autotroph, and then you can have a photoautotroph. So I use light to make my own energy. And autotroph makes its own energy. So a phototroph is a type of autotroph. And these are all types of producers. So what enters the system as sunlight? What do we call the process that where we take the energy from the sun that enters the system? Photosynthesis. There you go. All right. So we have photosynthesis is when you have energy entering the system as sunlight. And most what use photosynthesis? Most organisms. That would be a true answer. Yep.
Plants.
Most plants. Yep. You got anything different?
Trees.
Trees. Yep. Yep. Okay. So in this case, we're looking for most producers, but any of those are true answers. Yes. So most producers are going to use photosynthesis. So examples are things like algae, which we worked with today, and some types of bacteria and plants. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Does all energy enter a system as sunlight? No, it doesn't. No, because not all producers are photosynthetic. So here come our exceptions to the rule. What do you call organisms where energy enters the system when it's releasing chemical reactions? Jordan? Do you know? Yeah, chemosynthesis. Yep, very good. So that's the energy that enters the system when it's released in chemical reactions. And what do we call those organisms? Do you know? Chemoautotrophs is what we're looking for. So chemoautotrophs, what would this mean? If photoautotroph uses light to give itself energy, then a chemoautotroph does, Caitlin?
Uses
Chemicals. Okay, and here's the fun thing. These are what we call extremophiles. Who can tell me what that means based on the word parts in that word? Extremophiles. Lucas.
It has extreme, so it lives in extreme places.
Okay, it's extreme. It lives. What about extreme? We see file.
Pedophiles, like extremophile, like the person.
What is a pedophile? Okay, you use the word, so I'll go with it. Pedophiles prefer what?
Children.
Okay, pedo there is your root for children. So what is file?
Preferring.
You know? Love. Yes, loves. Remember we had hydrophobic and hydrophilic in chemistry? That's file. Philic, file, philos, love. It's a type of love. So
You could
yes,
use bibliophile instead.
bibliophile would have been better. Yeah, maybe better say like pedophile. Thanks for that. There you go. All right, good job. So yes, so we have extremophiles. Then what? Love what? Extreme conditions, right? So these are the guys. They're bacteria or archaebacteria or archa. That's another word you'll hear some this year. What's an archaeologist study? Yesterday?
Oh,
Fossil.
Yeah, where's that stuff coming from? Is it yesterday?
Or
Millions of years ago.
Way in the past, right? Way in the past, very ancient. So Arca, that's where you're going for with Arca. Archaeologist studies ancient stuff. Archaebacteria or archaea in general are your very lowest organisms, the very first to evolve, very, very old, very ancient. Yeah.
those look like probably gummy ones.
Oh, I wish they were, but I'm pretty sure they're not. So, these are organisms, a lot of them are bacteria. That's what that would be, a type of bacteria, a rod bacteria. And they live in extreme places like deep sea vents where it's really hot and there's like a lot of sulfur or whatever, and they'll use different chemicals and they will convert inorganic carbon dioxide into carbon. All right, then whoop, whoop. Whether photoautotroph or chemoautotroph, all food in an ecosystem is going to come from its producers. All right, so definition: an organism that cannot produce its own food, instead taking nutrition from other sources of organic carbon, mainly plant or animal matter. Barrett?
Consumers.
Consumer. That would yep, that would be an appropriate answer. We're going to look for heterotroph here because we're under consumer. So this is just, we're doing specific types. So here's another one. You can break that one down too. Troph means energy. Hetero means different or opposite, different. So get your energy from something other than yourself, something different, hetero, right? All right. An organism that obtains energy from organic compounds, I'll give you got troph, an organic compound. No, because that's going to be an inorganic,
Say herbivore.
So organotroph. So let me ask, are you a heterotroph?
Yeah.
Are you also an organotroph?
No.
You don't get your energy from an organic compound? What's an organic compound?
Organic.
Living.
Yeah, so in chemistry, we pretty much defined it as carbon-based compounds, which is accurate. In biology, you'll often define it as anything that was biotic. Those are organic because they were living or once living. They are also, therefore, carbon-based. So both examples are fine, both definitions. Primary consumers that eat only plant material are, Colin, herbivores. They're going to eat only plant material. Secondary consumers that eat only animals. Xander. Carnivores. Okay. Primary or secondary or tertiary that eat plant and animal. Kind of omnivores. Which are you?
Oh.
Asher? How do you know? Well, what if you decided you didn't want to eat any animals anymore?
You still need to.
Would you biologically still be an omnivore?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because you still require that stuff.
Because you can still eat animals that die.
Yeah. If aliens came down and found our skeletons, how would they know we were omnivores? Claire.
Our teeth.
Our teeth. There you go. You have teeth that bite, teeth that tear, teeth that grind. These are omnivore teeth. Look at a dog's teeth. If you got a dog or a cat when you get home and they'll let you open their mouth, have a look at their teeth. Their molars are not flat like ours. They're much pointier. They're for grinding. And then if you look at, well, hold on, I'll grab it. This deer skull that's sitting out here that's been getting rained on and further cleaned up. Hang on, right here. Grab it. Herbivore teeth. Ooh. Nice. Barely flat. Oh yeah. So herbivore teeth. What's left of them? What didn't get knocked out of its head when it got squashed by a car? Oh yeah. I got plenty more of these. So
I have it.
there's your herbivore teeth.
It would look good next month.
Hey. So have you ever looked at a horse's teeth? Have you ever watched? This is cool. They have equine dentists, by the way. If you want to watch some wild stuff on YouTube, they have equine dentists who will come in and like pull out horses' teeth and stuff. Like they sedate them and they put them in the apparatus that keeps them from falling over, and it's pretty wild. If you also want to watch something very interesting, I don't know if anybody has ever done this before, but okay, we humans have a weird thing. Like some of us love the Dr. Pimple Popper stuff. Okay, if you don't mind that kind of thing or you think it's real interesting, there are a couple of guys that have big YouTube channels. The one I like is called the Hoof GP. He's a Scottish guy, so I could listen to him talk all day. But he does cow hoof management, which is something that has to be done. And he uses these knives and these different tools, and he carves away the cow's hooves. But the cows will like step on nails and rocks and things, and they'll get into their hooves, and then they get all gross and infected. And he has to basically cut all the way to the point where the hoof is gone, and you're down to like raw nail bed, basically, right? But the way they do that is they wrap that foot up, but they put a block on the other foot that makes it stand slightly taller. So it takes the pressure off the injured foot. It's really interesting. But anyway, back on topic. Primary, secondary, tertiary consumers that eat dead plants and animal material. Oh boy, Eunice.
Detritivores.
Almost. We'll get to that one. Decomposers are the ones that eat dead plant material, but then we have different types. And that first one is what? That eats lumps of stuff you said was? Detritivores. What's detritus? Anybody know that word? Do you know it?
It's like decomposed matter.
Yeah, it's like matter. It's just like crumbly, nothing like topsoil is full of detritus. You can also people will use it to describe, like, for example, if you ever watch any of those shows where they go into like a hoarder's house after they've died and they try and clean it out and they'll say that whole house was just covered in detritus. It's just like little bits of yuck that are left everywhere. It's detritus. So detritivores will eat those lumps, right? They'll eat it up. Caitlin, how about the next one? Type of decomposer that eats decaying organisms, typically dead animals.
Scavengers.
Scavengers, yes. Okay, now we've got around here probably our most obvious scavengers when you see them are those turkey vultures, right? Everybody's seen those guys. Yeah, I'm grateful for them. They are amazing. Like ecologically, they are amazing. But they freak me out because they have naked heads. And it's, you know what I mean? Like they've got these big feathers and then their heads are bald. Why are their heads and necks bald? Do we know why? Do you know why? Yeah, they don't want to wander around or fly away with like rotten animal juice on their heads. So their heads are bald. They got no feathers, so they stick their little bald heads in there and like rip out stuff. But they will work. Like I said, we had a lot of deer that get hit right up here on James Burgess up by my church, and just down the whole road. But a lot of them right there at the top of the hill or by my church, and they will like. You'll see a deer carcass on Sunday and you'll come by on Monday and it will be a rack of bones. Like 24 hours, they will clean it down to the bones. Yum. Another real obvious one around here you may not have realized though as much as yellow jackets. Yellow jackets will eat something down to its skeleton too. Hyenas? Yeah, we don't have any of them though. I haven't seen it. Coyotes. Not recently. Coyotes will scavenge, but they will hunt too.
My dogs are scavengers.
Yeah, dogs are dogs will do lots of things. Dogs will be opportunistic omnivores. If you drop a strawberry on the floor, they're probably going to eat it, even though they're really built to be carnivores. And they will be opportunistic scavengers as well, but they're really built to hunt. You know, their eyes are in the front. They've got big canines, that kind of thing. But yeah, the yellow jackets had a little snake die in my yard once, like a little Decay's brown snake, like that long, maybe big around as my finger. And I left it because I was like, well, I figured the ants would take care of it because there's some ants that'll come and they'll scavenge. But it was primarily the yellow jackets. And 24 hours, it was a perfect, clean skeleton. Like, it's amazing. That's so impressive. That's really good. Question? Yusuf? Oh, you want to do the next one? So a lithotrope is an organism that obtains energy from organic compounds by electron transfer. Yeah. It's a lithotrope. Yeah. So litho, what's that mean? Litho,
like light, like
litho.
energy.
No. Litho or
lithium.
Stone. Ah. Oh, stone. That's what I just said. Stone. Anybody ever heard of a tonsillith?
No.
Oh, yeah. Some people they call them tonsil stones. Little lumpy things that get stuck in your tonsils. They're kind of like off-white in color. They smell really bad if you smush them. Some people get those. Those are called tonsilliths or tonsil stones. Yeah. There's also, there's a weird surgical position called the lithotomy position that is not very attractive or demure in any way, but it's for getting at your kidneys to shock kidney stones out, right? Yeah. So they use it for other things too. But yeah, lith meaning stones. So lithotrope gets its energy from stones, not necessarily, but it talks about organic compounds by electron transfer. So it's interesting that lithotrope is what we've used here. So what doesn't have the ability to fix carbon dioxide and must consume additional organic compounds in order to break them apart? So these would be lithoheterotropes, and then those that take up organic material to complement their carbon dioxide fixation source, these are going to be mixotrophs. And then this last one will be an organism that derives energy from reactions of reduced compounds in minerals, lithoautotropes. So these lithoautotropes are your chemotrophs, basically, right? So these are just different categories of consumers. Lithotropes, organotropes, are both heterotrophs. So what do autotrophs do through photosynthesis? Who's got an answer for me? All right, Yusuf, what you got?
Energy.
They get energy. You want to be more specific, Jordan?
They take in carbon dioxide and sunlight, and they get energy and oxygen.
There you go. Okay, so they're going to use energy from the sun to power the chemical reaction that converts water and carbon dioxide into oxygen and carbohydrates, such as sugar like glucose, right? What can some organisms survive without the sun, Eunice?
Yeah, like the deep sea bacteria.
Yes, the chemoautotrophs, those that use chemosynthesis to produce food, can survive without the sun. There's no sunlight on the ocean floor. And can organisms create their own energy? Their own energy. What do you think, Eunice?
No, because I think they can only convert it from one form to another.
There you go. So all organisms obtain energy from another source, such as the sun, chemical reactions, or other living things. This again is your law of conservation of energy, right? You can't create or destroy energy. You can transfer it or change the type of energy. Yes.
Do we have to know like all the autotrophs thingies?
You know, when we get to the test, I'll give you the review thing, like the review slide, like always, so you'll know what to study. Okay. Now, energy flow in ecosystems. So food chain versus food web. This is pretty self-explanatory. Your food chain, you got your arrow in both cases, and it's going to show arrow points to the eater and shows the transfer of energy. So again, there's that word trophic, meaning your energy level, right? So the only food chain is just step by step. You know, it's the flower got energy from the sun, the grasshopper got energy from the flower, the mouse got energy from the grasshopper, and so on. It's just a straight series of steps. The only tricky thing is that your first level is primary producer, primary first, easy. But your second level is primary consumer. And then your third is secondary because you moved into consumer. So if you remember that your first is producer and then after that, it's kind of offset by one number, right? Because tertiary means third, but there it is fourth because it's your fourth level because you started with your trophic level of being primary producers. That's the only tricky thing about a food chain. A food web shows all of the interdependencies, and that's more accurate because if you look at, for example, look at the little mouse. Okay, the mouse or whatever that is, gerbil. I don't know. It's not gerbil. Y'all, I saw a video the other day with this man. I just have to share this. This is off topic because it was the most amazing thing ever, and you should look it up if you like weird YouTube videos. This man, I think he had indulged in some substance, but he was out, like he was wearing leopard print onesie pajamas. First of all, okay, it's a grown man, leopard print onesie jammies, zipped up, and he was going through a parking lot, like a shopping center, and he was just going into businesses and just smashing stuff and stealing things and whatever. Right? Like he went into the shoe warehouse, there were shoes everywhere, like that kind of thing. Well, he hit up a pet land, right? So when the cops got there, like the parking lot was full of birds, a puppy, a chinchilla, rabbits, and they're running around trying to chase all of these animals, right? You would think that would be the craziest part of the story. The craziest part of the story is that someone called 911 and they're like, there's a man sleeping on the bench outside Big Lots in leopard print jammies. So they're like, oh, that's our guy. Like they've been trying to find him. They go and find him. He's sound asleep. They're all shining their flashlights. They're all talking. He is out. So they grab him off the bench and throw him on the ground. And they start to cuff the guy, and his pant legs are full of gerbils. They're pulling gerbils out of his pants, and they're like, "How many are in here?" The cops are laughing themselves silly. One cop's holding gerbils like this, taking pictures for the pet store owner to identify the gerbils. Gerbils, like, what are you doing? He's like, "You're in my gerbils." It was insane, and they're like, "How many are in here?" And they just keep pulling gerbils out of his pants. Like, what are you doing? Smuggling gerbils? So the gerbil eats the grasshopper, but you know what? That gerbil might actually eat seeds and things too, right? But the gerbil is eaten by the hawk. It's eaten by the fox. It could be eaten by that owl too, right? There's interdependency. Yeah.
That got a guy arrested.
Oh yes. Oh, and this is the best part. Aside from the gerbils, you'll never guess this man's name. This man's name was Matthew Pancake. I'm not Matthew Pancake with gerbils. I've ever seen. I watched the whole thing. Yeah.
And this was actually in Ohio.
She found it.
Oh,
I'm not lying, right? Matthew Pancake with the gerbil pants. Yep.
Ohio.
Matthew Pancake gerbil pants.
Breaking into a meat joint in a pet shop.
Yep.
Stealing gerbils and stuffing them into his.
Yep. I don't lie to you. Matthew Pancake. So when you get home, look up Matthew Pancake gerbil and you'll see it. The way I saw it first is it was on social media, but it was somebody had made it into a cartoon. But they had edited it down to like a 2-minute video and it was cartoon, and that made me laugh. So then I was like, I gotta go find the real video, and then I found the real video.
I know what I'm doing this weekend.
It's the same cartoon guy that did. Have you ever seen the one where they have the girl? She's a sloth in the video, and she's in Athens, but she thinks she's in West Palm Beach. She's in Athens, Georgia. She thinks she's in like Palm Beach, Florida. She's not with it. But she's wearing a bathing suit in the middle of the night, walking down the street in Athens. But they've made her into a sloth because she's like, I'm fine. It's funny. Anyway.
What
All right. So, yeah. So your trophic levels and your energy flow. Okay. Here's your energy pyramid. Your most energy is at the bottom where your producers are. And then when the rabbits eat the grass, the energy moves up. And now you have a little less energy. And then it moves up again when the snakes eat the rabbits. Oh. And then it moves up again when the hawk comes in and eats the snake. But there's something going on here. Now, why is it less energy every time? Well, it says energy lost. Well, wait a minute. We just said there's a law of conservation of energy. Where's it going?
It's turning into heat.
It's turning into heat. Very good. So all of these animals here are producing heat to some degree. There's some degree of aerobic respiration going on, and heat is lost. And even for the little snakes, heat is lost in the process. And so that heat goes out into the environment. It's not lost, it's transferred into heat energy and then into the environment. Did you have a question? Are you the snakes? Yeah, they still have it's a different metabolic system that we have the whole cold-blooded endotherm ectotherm thing, but they do still produce some heat. All right, now if you look here, it shows you roughly, like, for example, how you could do how many calories. So you'd have 10,000 kilocalories heat loss. There it is. Tells you what kind of loss it is. And then primary consumers, maybe 1,000 calories, 10,000 kilocalories, and then 10 kilocalories at the top. This is also why you're always going to have more grass than eagles.
Why can't the eagles just eat grass?
You're not supposed to eat the grass. But that's why you have more grass than eagles. You have more earthworms than snakes. The higher up you are in the chain, when you become the top predator, there are fewer of you and your type than there are of the things at the bottom. Think about herds of zebras and lions. There are going to be more zebras than there are going to be lions.
But does that mean that humans are not at the top of the food chain, like really low?
We're at the top for the most part now. When you're talking, but ours is a little artificial, right? Like we aren't living on the plains with the lions and the tigers and things of that sort. But if you compare the number of humans to, say, the number of
Earthworms.
your algae from today, earthworms, chickens, any of those things. Yeah, you need more chickens to feed humans. So, I mean, think about how many chickens you probably eat in a year.
There's 48 billion on the Earth.
48 billion chickens? That's a lot of chickens, dude.
One
Yeah.
time, my brother and a bunch of his friends, while we were at like a summer camp, we went to a restaurant and like a whole table of like 8 teenage boys ate 140 wings, which is equivalent to like 15 chickens.
Yes.
140 wings would be 70 chickens.
I have a record to beat.
That's a lot of chickens.
Yeah.
That's a lot of chickens. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, yep, you're going to lose energy as you go up. So, biomass pyramid, this is another way of showing it. So, you've got your aquatic ecosystem versus your terrestrial ecosystem, and they've used some examples here. Phytoplankton versus grasses, zooplankton, grasshoppers, herrings, mice, snakes, sea lions as you go up. Now, phytoplankton, just real briefly. So this is a type of algae, similar. Anyway, it's a photosynthetic organism, right? Like the algae that you used, I'll say. About 9 or 10 years ago, there was an event where the Amazon rainforest caught fire, and it was really terrible. Like people were freaking out because it was really pretty bad. I mean, it was destroying a lot of land as it went. But there were multiple social media posts of people bewailing the fact that Earth's lungs were being destroyed. And that is inaccurate. Earth's lungs are the oceans because our phytoplankton produce more oxygen than all the forests. So it's the phytoplankton that live in the oceans and lakes and streams, but primarily our oceans. Our oceans are the lungs of the planet, not the rainforest. The rainforest should be preserved for a number of reasons. I'm not advocating it just burn to the ground. That would be terrible. It is extraordinarily biodiverse. We still don't know everything that's in there. There's probably all kinds of things in there that we could use to cure disease. Goodness knows what else we can learn from. But it's not the lungs of the planet, as some people would like to think, because it is the largest forest. People go, oh, we're getting all our oxygen from that rainforest. No, we're really not. So food chain versus food web. Your food chain is a series, right? It's who eats whom. And a food web has all of the chains kind of interlocking within the system. And it shows that each organism in an ecosystem occupies a specific trophic level or position in the food chain or the food web. All right, now, cycles of matter. Do we remember what matter is? Matter is, Eunice?
The amount of mass in an object.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. What do you think?
It's just stuff.
Stuff. Anything that has mass and takes up space, this we could say is a good definition for matter. So biogeochemical cycles, any of the natural pathways by which essential elements of living matter are circulated. That's what we call a biogeochemical cycle. We can break that one down. Bio, earth, bio, life, geo, earth, chemical, right? Okay. So the term biogeochemical is a contraction, refers to biological, geological, and chemical aspects in each cycle. So this is so funny to me. I make mistakes all the time, but that one absolutely correct. That was not me. I took that graphic from somewhere else, but consumers is my favorite new word. Consumers. That's supposed to say consumers, but it says consumers. That made me giggle. So anyway, I left it because it was good. Consumers. So you have the water cycle. Now you're probably familiar with a very simplified version of the water cycle, right? But it's really more complex. And there's one thing kind of missing from this graphic that I wish they had included, and it's transpiration, but it's the fact that water does leave plants through their leaves. That's why if you leave a flower, you have a plant, you don't water it, it's going to start to wilt because it is losing water through its leaves. So water does get into the atmosphere and into the environment through plants. Plants do release it to some degree. But you've got everything in here except for that. You got fog, drip, and evaporation, and it says flora and fauna, which I guess that is your transpiration in there. Flora and fauna. When you breathe out water too, right? If you breathe on a cold window, you'll see it fogs up. Or when you're outside in the cold, you breathe out and makes fog. So flora and fauna, I suppose, would be transpiration and respiration. But yeah, so you got a water cycle. You're pretty familiar with that. Then you have different nutrient cycles. You have a carbon cycle. And this is important for all living things, obviously. And then you're going to have other elements in the cycle too. But carbon cycle has to do with everything from, like if you see here, you've got a volcano explosion, which puts carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which gets consumed by terrestrial photosynthesis. So there's trees and things of that sort that are sucking up the carbon dioxide. But it also, right here, you can also see marine respiration and marine photosynthesis. That would be your phytoplankton, your marine photosynthesis. Marine respiration are your fish and other creatures that are still breathing oxygen underwater because it's dissolved in the water, right? So there's a lot that goes into a carbon cycle. You have a nitrogen cycle. Now here's the crazy thing about nitrogen. Our atmospheric air that we breathe is more nitrogen than any other gas. More nitrogen than oxygen, more nitrogen than carbon dioxide. You breathe nitrogen in and out all day long, and you need nitrogen, but you can't use it as a gas. You cannot use it. The oxygen that the nitrogen that you breathe in, your body does not use at all. It completely ignores it in that whole respiration process. The nitrogen that you use has to come through food, and it has to be fixed. And there are certain bacteria that fix the nitrogen, which makes it in its usable form for you. You can't just get it from the atmosphere, which is kind of wild. It would be very efficient if we could.
It says nitrogenous waste is in soil.
Yeah, nitrogenous waste in soil. So there's a lot of nitrogen. That's a great example. So urine is high in nitrogen, for example. So all the animals that are outside, all of our sewage, you're going to get it because there's ammonia, and ammonia contains nitrogen. So you get nitrogenous waste in your soil. Yep. And then you see ammonification by bacteria and fungi to NH4+. So there you go. More nitrogenous waste. It turns to ammonia, and then it's nitrified by bacteria, becomes NO2 negative. And then more bacteria can make it NO3 negative. But you need those bacteria to do their job in order for you to get the nitrogen you need, because even though you breathe it in, you can't use it that way. And then you have phosphorus, and this is primarily we get a lot of our phosphorus from weathered rock. So when we talked in the lab about phosphorus, for example, why are we using spring water? Because there's going to be some level of phosphorus in it. And those are minerals that are necessary. Do you remember when we did our CHNOPS, schnapps? Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur. Those are the things you need. Yeah.
One fact, phosphorus is actually one of the slowest cycles on the face of the
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It takes a long time to weather a rock. So yeah, it's definitely a slow cycle. And then oxygen. Oxygen is cycled too. And oxygen is cycled with plants, for example. They release oxygen, and we're going to consume oxygen. Other things are going to consume oxygen. You can see there's a lot. And evaporation, there's oxygen in water. So the water cycle gets involved in the whole process of the oxygen cycle. Yeah.
I'm playing the nutrient cycle now.
No, I know. Oxygen cycle's at the top. Every one of these says nutrient cycles on the side. See?
It doesn't say for the first.
It did. See? It's there. Just the others had their name. The others had the name of the cycle on the graphic. This one had the name of the cycle above the graphic is all. But they're good. See, there's our schnapps again. So the four elements that make up 95% of the body: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. There they are. And matter moves through an ecosystem in cycles. Schnapps is the mnemonic. We already know that. I said that. 6 main elements. And then chemical and physical processes in ecosystem include things like cloud formation, precipitation, lightning, and flowing of water. So you need precipitation to produce flowing water to weather rocks, or rain to weather rocks to get phosphorus so that you can use it.
Sulfur is supposed to be spelled with P.
Yeah, you can do it that way. I think that's right. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Am I looking at it? Like, am I looking at that right? Yeah.
Sulfur is spelled SULFUR.
I think it is both ways.
I think it's one of the ones that you can do. Like, what's the one I'm thinking of?
Like
Color or gray or gray. So this illustration draws an analogy. I think this was in your notes, wasn't it? Between the way energy drives matter in a cycle in an ecosystem and the way water causes a wheel to turn. Give another example of an analogy that could be used to show the relationship between energy and cycles of matter. What you got, Asher? Oh, whirlpool. Okay. What have you got?
I've got it's a little long.
Okay.
Okay, so an Ecology could be a refrigerator that runs on electricity to keep the pool. Electricity that powers the system of the pool air is recycled continuously inside the fridge, just like energy flows through the ecosystem to move the matter.
Okay. Good. Jordan?
Fountain.
A fountain? Okay. All right. Barrett?
Did a wind and a windmill?
Wind and a windmill. That's a good one. Anybody else have one? A bicycle being pedaled? Caitlin?
Bike.
Bike? I stole your example. Yeah, there you go. Like a bike. Okay, excellent. So windmills, car engines, bicycle pedals, these are all good examples. So if you look here, just something to keep in mind, we have different ways to label impacts on the environment. So if you look here, you got a snow plow, he's pushing along, stuff's getting mushed over to the side. We call these edge effects. And he's putting things out into the environment, into the water, like nutrients, toxins, and sediment, right? All that goes off the road. Then you got roadkill. The roadkill rots on the road. All that has runoff, right? And that is going to impact what's around it because those chemicals will seeping into the ground. And then you have invasives. And those are things that don't belong, right? Invasive species can be plants, can be animals. Joro spiders are a great example of invasive species that don't belong here, but here they are. You know those Joro spiders, right? Everybody knows them, big black and yellow guys. The males are itty bitty, the females are like huge. Yeah,
I forget what it's called, but when James took this class last year, or not last year, the year that it happened.
This class?
Yeah,
4 years ago.
He kept talking about it, and it was like all of these vines or something.
Kudzu. Yes, everybody's seen kudzu, whether you realize it or not. Kudzu is a great example of an invasive. So kudzu is from Japan. Parts of Japan have a very similar climate to the Southeast United States. So they're similar latitude. So people brought kudzu over here as an ornamental shade growth because it does make lovely purple flowers. And it'll come up again. We'll bring up kudzu again when we really talk about invasive species in a few weeks. But they brought it over and they actually brought it to a fair. It was a big fair. Come look at our beautiful new ground cover. You can put this on your front porch in the South and it'll shade your porch and it'll be cool on your porch until it took over because it has no predators, no natural predators here at all. No bugs that eat it, nothing. And that was the weird thing about the Juro spiders. So right before the Juro spiders, like a year or two before the Juro spiders got here, we got brown marmorated stink bugs that came from Vietnam. And they look like our stink bugs, but they're not. If you suddenly found a bunch of stink bugs in your house, like I had them in my house at one point, they were everywhere. I'm like, where are these coming from? They are not native species. They are not indigenous. They are invasive. So the one good thing about the Juro spiders, they're also from South Asia. They will eat the brown marmorated stink bugs when nothing else here will. That's the only good thing about those Juro spiders. That and their webs are beautiful, but yeah.
New Zealand has a lot of invasive species.
Tons. Yep. Very many. Rabbits in Australia are a huge problem.
There's rabbits, there's possums especially, there's goats, there's deer, there's a specific kind of pine tree.
Yep.
There's weasels.
Yep. Rabbits are a huge problem in Australia. They brought rabbits over for people to hunt. This will be fun. You want to hunt something? Let's just bring some rabbits from Europe. Nothing in Australia hunts rabbits except for humans. And if you know anything about rabbits, I mean, it's a joke. They reproduce like rabbits, right? Because rabbits reproduce like crazy, right? They reproduce very quickly. Their infancy to sexual maturity is real short. And once they start reproducing, they have many babies in a litter at one time, and they just keep making babies. And so they've had to put like rabbit fences in Australia where they had to dig down really deep and put a fence in because they'll dig under a fence. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's just free meat.
Free meat. It's too much meat.
Yes.
They can't get rid of it. They're eating everything. Eating everything. So another example of water in the environment is we talked about transpiration, right? So a plant is going to take water up through its roots and it's going to be drawn up through the leaves The veins are going to carry the water into the leaves, and the water is going to evaporate out of the leaves, and that is transpiration. That's yet another way that you've got active water, part of the water cycle, ecologically speaking. So if you were to diagram the water cycle real simply, you'd see this. Water is essential for life. Everything, every living organism, all of them. Water is essential for life. So water evaporates, clouds form, then what happens, everybody? It rains or sleets or snows or hails, and then where does that water go? Groundwater, lakes, ponds, whatever, right? And then it evaporates again, puddles, and then goes on and on and on, right? All right, so if we look at this one here, carbon is essential for life. Consumers take in oxygen for their life processes, and consumers release carbon dioxide as a waste product. Okay, but here's a producer. So what is he going to what's the tree going to release as a waste product? Oxygen, and it's going into the environment, and the grass is also going to release oxygen. And then what's the little horsey going to release as a waste product?
Poop.
Yeah, poop, but also carbon dioxide. And then what's going to consume the carbon dioxide? The tree, round and round. Most organisms use nitrogen that has been fixed by bacteria in the soil, which is what we said. You are one of those. You cannot, you breathe in that oxygen all day, but that's not where you're getting it from. All right, so this goes over how these cycles are linked and interdependent. All right, do your thing.
The sustainability of our world depends on nutrients.
British, it must be smart.
Cycle through the environment. Carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycles are all pivotal in providing food, timber, fibers, and fuels. They regulate our climate, protect human health, and are an important driver of changes in biodiversity. Through industrialization, agricultural intensification, and urbanization, we have altered these cycles. For example, the use of inorganic fertilizers containing nitrogen and phosphorus increases crop yield, but cropping diverts carbon away from the soil. And overuse of fertilizers can lead to enrichment of nitrogen and phosphorus, with knock-on effects for biodiversity and water quality. It is important we understand carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycles, so we can, in turn, understand the consequences of human interventions. However, these cycles are complex. They span the Earth, from the atmosphere through to plants, soils, and water. And the cycling of the elements themselves are interlinked through biological processes. Living organisms need carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus in relatively fixed proportions. And so, life on Earth closely links the cycling of these three elements. For example, plants attain the carbon they need from the atmosphere via photosynthesis, but it is often the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus available in the soil that determines their growth. Nitrogen is abundant in the atmosphere, but most plants can't access this. They need bacteria that live in the soil to convert this atmospheric nitrogen to forms that plants can use. The ability of bacteria to do this is dependent upon the availability of phosphorus in the soil, which in turn comes from the weathering of rocks, weathering that can be accelerated by plant and fungi activity. And so the amount of carbon entering plants is regulated by the amount of nitrogen processed by bacteria, which is related to the amount of phosphorus. And this is just one set of processes that links these three elements. That is why, in the long-term large-scale macronutrient cycles project, we're developing computer models that link carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycles, linking scientific disciplines and linking people to improve our understanding of nutrient cycling change and its consequences, to help work towards a more sustainable future.
Yay for them. Oh. Oh.
This isn't honey.
Yeah. So you will have your first homework lesson this week. Now that this is our normal schedule. So normally you'll do class, before class you'll read, do your binder work. You'll come to class, we'll review and reinforce everything. We'll have discussions, we'll ask questions, we'll do lab. You'll leave class and you'll have a homework assignment. You will not have a homework assignment when you have a test. right? You will have a binder work assignment very often when you have a test, and it'll just be one question. You can go in and answer that. But you'll have, oh boy, everybody. So, you'll have your first homework assignment this week. Now, I said this at the grill and chill. I'll say it again and make sure everybody hears it. Like if you've done chemistry or physical science, you're used to it being a couple of quick questions and you move on. Some of the bio homework assignments are much longer. Do not attempt to do it at 7:30 a.m. or on your way to class or something. You will probably not have time. Plan ahead. They are worth the same amount of points, but each question is like a partial, like 0.25%, 0.5. I mean, 0.5 points, 0.5 points, 0.25 points, whatever. So whereas you may have had one question before that was 1 point, for some of the bio homework, you may have 4 questions to get you to 1 point, right? Which means they're not, if you miss one, it's not as big a deal. But also remember that the first question in your homework assignment is always going to be a binder work question. That is going to make me ask, did you answer questions in class? If you answered questions in class and contributed, then I know you likely did your reading and your binder work. If you don't answer questions in class and don't participate, I may not give you credit for that binder work question when you answer it. And the binder work question is always completely unrelated. What's your favorite emoji? Would you rather? Those kinds of questions. It just triggers me to think back to class. Did so and so answer? So it's only like our second day of class. So I didn't make everybody answer this week. But what I'll start doing in the next couple of weeks is I will look at my coins, because this tells me who has answered and who hasn't answered. And once I have a look at my coins, I can go, okay, these people didn't answer. So that's when I start calling on people, is when you don't volunteer. Or I'll say, if you haven't answered, put your hand up. If you've already answered a question, put your hands down until everybody's answered at least one question. And sometimes we get down to like one person and I'll just make it a goofy question like, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Just say something. Because for some people, it's just hard to speak. They don't want to talk in class. So kind of got to get over that hump and participate a little bit. Okay, so you guys are out of here about 10, 15 minutes early, which is fine. And I'm gonna put your coins up here because it's gonna take you a while to get through. That you can touch the skull. Be careful with that. It's a little fragile because it's got a fracture. 2 or 12.
Yeah, you can tell this thing got hit hard.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Crunch the side of her face pretty good.
Yeah.
For when we get to do this, because then I get more bones.
I get to keep it.
Because I get
Yikes.
Swole up.
Yeah, this entire like left eye socket's broken.
Oh yeah, I have a whole bunch of these guys. Like a ton of them. I have a whole spine that I articulated, or most of the spine that I articulated, put wire through it and everything. But the teeth are pressed like very.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to see.
You can see like that's where your optic nerve would go in. Like it's really kind of cool. Yeah, absolutely. And you can see where a skull fused. Where those were all separate plates that fused. Isn't it really cool? It's beautiful when you look at it. It's quite beautiful. It's pretty nifty.
I'm sure balls. Yeah. We have a couple of skulls too. I wish I was had the nose though.
Yeah, this one's got a good nose. I've got some that are in way better shape than her, and then I've got some that are in worse. But like, look, these are like sinus bones. See how they're like so thin? They're like paper thin. Yeah, you can see all the little sinus cavity bones. They're really cool. I was just saying, like, you can see where optic nerves go in, like everything, like you could right there. It's really pretty cool. And I've got a bunch of different animals too, not just deer. I've got like almost a full set of possums. Yeah. I like it. They're cool.
If you want to make
They're 6. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's Drew's. Thanks.
if you ever want to make the people who are fiction challenging,
Oh yeah, they would. Yeah.
I've gotten like small bones.
Yeah.
Some of those bad bones.
Oh yes.
Like one road there for a spot that day. But that's small bones.
Yeah,
Because I don't have to find the bones.
yeah.
Also, I don't have this process.
Processing was okay. Yeah, this one was mostly just naturally processed. I left it outside for a bit. You can see there's algae in here. It's green. But I have some that I have fully processed, like I've bleached or boiled, and that
It's like, I love those.
yeah, they're cool, they're beautiful. Yeah, yeah,
You know, it smells like compared with my other that stuff.
yeah, yeah. I have a huge box of them. It's pretty cool. Like I have so many in there, but they're really neat. They're just, I think it's beautiful. Like if you look at it, like it's a beautiful structure. Everything here has a purpose, and it's impressive. Yeah, yeah, you can see it. Yeah, and then there's like that's all science. But it's just look at how bulk that is. Like architecturally, that is stunning. Like some people will be like, ew, but I'm like, yeah, that is beautiful. This is so fine, so delicate, paper thin. That's gorgeous.
When all the snakes are
Yes, it's like
always like right there.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I've got the beaver in there. Have you seen the beaver?
That's true.
That's a full oh well. Oh, you went to talk. All right, so this, you know, you might bring the weird, right? Weirdness part. So, this is really. So, when the Soviet Union existed, it was not allowed Western unions. But people are people. They want people. So, they have these recording books, which you go to and record your voice and they press it on that. And then you little voice for your family, whatever you get, it's a non language. And you have to go, here's all these people in your mouth, and something to press. And then you make comments and make it easy and share. And they found five little things to press. So this is like it falls out. That is the web page and Sperma. And they have the small one with love me to by the people. Love me so you can get it by the so that's the old and they go with the people. So that's probably that's it on that street though. Just really kind of slow, like I have a sweet over very first like oh, you know, not that it's tired. I love it much.
2 points. You're broke. In comparison. Yes. By the way, there's one person like you got a $10,000 phone, and you like say, oh, go, you know, it's this made on pennies. They probably want to use your body like the internet. I'm like, it's sweet. It is. Yeah. Yes. Oh, it's brilliant. Well, I'm along and I'm with the pride. Actually, no.
Like if you're every so that like no vibration is the first something because you know he's thinking about he sits in here to the wall. And yeah. There you go. Bye, Ray. See you next week. But she ain't not there yet. You can't tell. Oh, she's in Maxwell Streets. This is my Maxwell Street. Maxwell Streets are good dreams. Yeah, I like the vignettes here and there. Maybe I love it. Oh, yeah. Maureen is a good name for it. Yeah, the more weird things I find, the more I stick it in here.
It's like the closest the only thing we have is like the big like the black the those people. The big guy. I get through this all that.
No letter, please. Great, great on. I like bring on here. Yeah. That's what I do. This is the funny thing. Shop for years. Everybody uses the whole world visual. And then when they decided not to have it, so you're looking at it. And that's like, sound very civil war. It's a shot. He thought it was Civil War football. This is stuff. I am not. It's not. Yeah, it was in the country today. That's how it was. He was so young and but I was like when I look at it, oh my god. Hey, you got the man that is oh, you got it. It's surprising though. Like, I understand why you thought it was identical. It's not right. I understand people, but the cool one came back, hey, that's I understand maybe you know like well, yeah, no, he's just whatever. So yeah, you know that's just crazy. Oh, yeah, y'all do. Yeah. My dad shows up sometimes once a year around Christmas and hangs out for a class. Yeah, he's a character, isn't he? Yeah, he's great. His jokes are good. His jokes are awful, but you're kind. See you next week. Yeah, bachelor. He loves his jokes, that's for sure. He tells everybody jokes all day long. Lives for it. Even though it's ridiculous. Um, Oh, which one did you remember? Oh, the pennies. You have 2 pennies in your hand. What fruit do you have? Yeah. A pear. Yeah. There's that. That's Drew's book. Well, you're lucky because that's usually all I hear. So they're usually like every time he starts, I win. What's funny is his memory's so bad now that like I told him a joke a couple weeks ago. I heard a joke and I told him the joke, and then he called me like a couple hours later and told me the joke. Because he forgot that I was the one who told him the joke. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. He called during class today too. He left me. What's probably going to be a well, no, I'll always know that I have to be able to understand because usually you can't understand because someone else. Oh, yeah. What? Oh, yeah. I'm like PJ freedom calls. She called just about 1 o'clock. The secret I don't think today. Oh, it's making me something. I don't know why. Hold on. Oh, my people. Oh, I can't go and read it. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's probably the pouch. You were saying, no, you haven't read that, did you? I did. Where's your bag? Is it, did it fall off your neck? In my car. Did it fall off your neck into your bag? I should have. Oh, goodness knows what we're gonna find in here. Oh, a bowl. That's fun. I don't know why that's there.
I have one sitting on this table.
Yeah,
I got up and I put them on my neck.
There's God knows what in here. I take no responsibility. This is crumbs. Oh, no.
So I was like, maybe it's in my pocket, but I took them.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay.
Because I took them off my keychain
Yeah.
with my lanyard so I could get in the car. Got in and I'm like, this feels. Oh, it's missing.
Where's your bag? Is it
In my car.
your bag is in your car? Let's walk your pathway and check your bag. See if maybe it fell on the ground. Or maybe it could fall off the ground. It could have fallen off the grass or it could have fallen off into your bag. Oh, okay. You drew? Drew? Andrew? No, Drew. Yeah, interesting.
Well, never gonna do. I'm down here and find out. Where'd you go? You sent me a package of. You get a package of, you know? Let me take you some.
And that's your new book on the stairs too, baby.
Thank you.
Yep.
How are you? What's that? Nothing. I'm in Costco. Alright. Oh, wow. Do you get any cell sales or something? Wow. What's this? Oh. My God. I'm sorry, what'd you say? I said, oh. Wow.
Limit your intake to 1 per day, sir. Yes. 1 per day. That is all.
What you're looking for?
It's
Somebody loves you.
you.
Thank you, mother.
thanks.
Welcome.
You.
Somebody loves you. That isn't me. I know, because I didn't buy that for you.
Oh, those are good.
Good question, right? You're welcome. I love best you ever. Glasses not that bad. It's all right. There you go.
Yeah.
Here, back. You take them off, sure? No. Yes, right here.
Oh boy, is he lucky or what?
Yeah, yes.
He's got a grandma that just loves him.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that.
He's just me, but
He is just me. I'm going to dinner tonight.
yes, I know.
Right, so okay.
With whatever.
Jennifer said.
Yeah. Okay, went to Aldi's.
All right.
Went to Costco, got Drew's drink.
All right.
Well, I took that shot yesterday and I got had heartburn.
Yeah.
Sorry. Over the heartburn part.
It rotten.
Oh, and there's Reese's too.
Yeah.
Yeah. These, but they don't.
Oh my gosh.
She really likes you. What do you know?
She does. She does. Yeah, she does. A little bit.
You think somebody likes
Those
you,
breakfast-
Drew? Anyway, turn this off.
It's like they're so good.
No.
Just it's like answer. No.